Dumelang mangwana ni mwalele phofu kenjani xexwa savana ve Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. It is a Wednesday, and as usual, you're joined by Ashwin Berry and Anna Raisa Kweyo.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Today is Spouses Day. This day is dedicated to recognizing spouses everywhere, from being thankful for fulfillment to the security of being in a long-term relationship. And here is more on that. Welcome back to Africa Good Morning, and here are your top stories. Malawi president dissolves a cabinet. Malawi leader Lazarus Chakwera has dissolved his cabinet effective on the 24th of January 2022. Chakwera made the announcement during the presidential national address at Kamuzu Palace in Lilongwe. Now, according to Chakwera, all ministerial functions should be referred to his office until he appoints another cabinet. The Malawi leader also hinted that he will not include former Minister of Lands in the new cabinet as a way of diverting his focus on the case he's allegedly on. Chakwera said the new cabinet will be announced in 2 days. 3 ministers are facing charges, including the Minister of Land, who was arrested last month in a bribery case. The Labour Minister has also been accused of diverting COVID funds, and the Energy Minister of meddling with fuels deals. All the 3 ministers have denied these allegations.
Now in our second story, Burkina Faso president resigns after military coup. The president of Burkina Faso, Roch Kabore, resigned yesterday after the military seized power following Sunday's coup. In a letter addressed to the country's new strongman, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Sandaogo Damiba, which was aired on state television, Kabore said he was resigning. In the interests of the nation, following the events of Sunday, I have decided to resign from my duties as president, head of government, and Supreme Commander of the National Armed Forces, he wrote. On behalf of the Patriotic Movement for Safeguarding and Restoration, a spokesperson said that the decision to overthrow Kabore was taken with the sole aim of allowing the country to return to the right path and gather all forces to fight for its integrity. They, however, assured that they had taken power without bloodshed and without any physical violence against the detainees, who are in a safe place and with respect for their dignity.
Lily mine victims' families mark 1,000 days camping outside mine. Families of trapped Lily mine workers mark 1,000 days camping outside the mine, where Pritin Kambule, Solomon Nireda, and Yvonne Mnisi's bodies are yet to be retrieved. They have vowed to continue searching for answers with the help of Action SA leader Herman Mashaba. The 3 presumed deceased have been trapped almost 70 meters underground since February 2016 and are yet to be retrieved due to safety concerns. The family spokesperson Henry Mazimbuko said the families felt let down by the government as they continue to search for answers. It's unfortunate we are marking 1,000 days camping outside because of the Bill of Rights allows us to gather peacefully and unarmed and voice out our frustrations. We have thousands of questions, especially to our own democratic government, because we cannot dwell on that much of private sector because it is a private sector, said the spokesperson. Herman Mashaba, who has been helping the families get help from the government, said the families would not give up on their fight to have the bodies retrieved for the families to get closure.
In our next story, Mali asks Denmark to immediately withdraw troops deployed there. Mali's government said on Monday it had asked Denmark to immediately withdraw troops deployed to the West African nation as part of a French-led counter-terrorism task force because it was not consulted and the deployment failed to follow protocol. The government of Mali said the deployment took place without its consent and without consideration of the additional protocol applicable to the task force, adding that Denmark should immediately withdraw the troops. The statement said all partners in the task force needed a prior accord with the government before deployments in Mali. Tensions have escalated also over allegations that transitional authorities have deployed private military contractors from the Russia-backed Wagner Group to Mali, which some EU countries have said was incompatible with their mission. The Danish Defense Ministry said that about 90 personnel, including surgeons and the Danish Army Special Forces logistics support, were deployed. Their mandate was supposed to last until early 2023.
Over 600 migrants rescued off Libyan coast in the past week. The International Organization for Migration disclosed that more than 600 migrants are rescued off the Libyan coast and returned to Libya in the past week. According to the IOM, 604 migrants were rescued, intercepted at the sea and returned to Libya between the 16th and the 22nd of January. The IOM further reported that 12 migrants died and 16 others went missing off the coast of Libya on the central Mediterranean route in the past week. In 2021, a total of 32,425 illegal immigrants were rescued and returned to Libya, while 662 died and another 891 went missing off the Libyan coast of the central Mediterranean route.
In our next story, we're back to South Africa as South African corruption probe flags COVID contracts worth 137 million. South African investigators have flagged COVID-19 contracts worth around 2.1 billion rand for possible corruption and fraud. President Cyril Ramaphosa authorized the investigation into his government's coronavirus spending in 2020 following a spate of scandals that caused public outrage. The Special Investigating Unit SIU, which led the investigation, had said previously that it had uncovered instances where personal protective equipment was overpriced, procurement rules flouted, and services not delivered despite money being paid. The 2.1 billion rand of contracts under suspicion have been enrolled in the Special Tribunal, which is mandated to recover public funds lost through corruption, fraud, and illicit money flows, the more than 700-page report said. The SIU referred 224 officials in government departments or entities for disciplinary action after finding 2,803 contracts were irregular. It identified some of those facing accusations and estimated that the value of cash and assets to be recovered was around 552 million rand.
In Namibia, pandemic retrenchment toll stands at 15,442. Over the past 2 years, the COVID-19 pandemic has been directly and indirectly responsible for the widespread loss of jobs in the country. The reason for many retrenchments were economic transfer of business, reorganization or operational, and saw 1,278 employers letting go of 15,442 employees over the period of 2 years. In 2020 alone, 12,198 workers employed across the 896 companies lost their jobs. Last year, a total of 3,244 employees were let go. This is reflected in the latest figures on the employment in Namibia released by the Ministry of Labour, Industrial Relations and Employment Creation this week.
In our next story, 31 killed in new South Sudan communal violence. A local official says at least 31 ethnic Dinka have been killed in clashes with suspected Murle armed youth in South Sudan's restive Jonglei state. Bor South County Commissioner Yuot Alier told the press that more than 20 other people were wounded in Sunday evening's attack in Baidet village, and some houses were burned. The commissioner said 28 people were shot dead and 3 children were drowned while some people tried to hide. The commissioner said the attackers left with hundreds of cattle. 2 of the attackers were reportedly killed. Now, the acting governor of Jonglei, Tuwong Majok, condemned the attack and urged South Sudan's national government to intervene in ceasing the cowardly attacks against civilians.
16 billion kwacha aid for food insecure people, and this is in Malawi. Now, the Malawian government has secured 16 billion kwacha worth of resources in cash and kind to assist 1.7 million people that will face hunger in the 2021-2022 lean season. The government has allocated 29,116 metric tons of maize valued at 6.56 billion kwacha to stakeholders for the same cause. The Malawi Vulnerability Assessment Committee conducted 2 assessments that projected that 1.7 million people across the country would be food insecure. The 16 billion kwacha worth of support had been provided by the German, Irish Aid and European Union, United States Agency for International Development, World Food Programme and the United Nations Children Emergency Fund. Commissioner for Disaster Management Charles Kaleba said the maize had been sourced from the strategic grain reserves and that the department was working with partners who were providing cash transfers to the affected population. He also said that some of the affected people would get cash support while others would get a relief maize.
The last of our top stories comes from Angola as more than 100 fake doctors deactivated from the database. The chairman of the Order of Doctors of Angola denounced this week that more than 100 false doctors have been blocked and removed from the database in recent times, who in several hospital units carried out health activities illegally, ensuring that the recognition of documents will be a continuous and permanent process. Elisa Pedro Gaspar expressed her concern when, on the occasion of the National Doctors Day to be celebrated on January 26 today, that the connivance of a network of health workers has been at the origin of the high number of fake doctors who, in exchange for monetary values, facilitates the attribution of an identification number. The exercise of medical activity requires a lot of professionalism, intelligence, love for others, humanism, and dedication, because only by being committed to these principles will it be possible to provide better health care, said the governor of Huambo, Lottie Nolika. All right, that brings us to the end of our top stories. Now, I've heard of people flying around the world, I've heard of people sailing around the world, but I've never heard of people pedaling around the world. I never assumed anyone's legs would be that strong. But 2 Belgians are doing exactly that, and they find themselves in Namibia. We'll be talking about that after the break.
You're watching Africa Good Morning, and we thank you very much for joining us. Now, today on our show, NMH's Yana Marie Smith chats with friends Belgian-born Cohen and Jill, who are pedaling around the world and currently find themselves in Namibia. Please enjoy this video.
Good morning, Yella and Koen. Thank you so much for joining us. Where are you at this moment?
Hi, Anna. Good morning. Thank you for having us. We are at the moment in Namibia. We're staying in Gama Lodge, 60 kilometers from Sasrim.
How many days have you been on the road?
We left on the 15th of June 2020, and that's actually exactly the day where the Belgian borders opened again. 1 year and 7 months ago. We're very close to doing our first 20,000 kilometers, which is a nice little first milestone.
How has the pandemic impacted your journey so far?
Yeah, for starters, the pandemic completely changed our direction in which we cycled. So our original idea was actually to cycle east and come back in the west, kind of to circumnavigate the globe. So when we got to Istanbul, to Turkey, then we had to decide where to go because the east was completely locked. Yeah, we basically looked at the map and were like, where can we cycle the longest distance without being stuck somewhere? And that appeared to be Africa. Yes. Looking back, it's been a wonderful decision. I think it's the best decision we could have made in these special times to come to Africa. Yeah, it was the best place to be at during these times. Of course, we had to do many of the PCR tests. Yeah. I think we've done 15 to 20 PCR tests probably. Yeah. But that's for the rest. We have been going pretty smoothly. Yeah.
What kind of responses have you had? What do you see and experience from a bicycle that you wouldn't in any other way of traveling?
Well, for me, I think the pace is a big advantage. Going not too slow and for sure not too fast. You're always outside. You're moving using your own strength and your own muscles. Environmentally friendly, like the carbon footprint is very important for us too. And you're more engaged to your environment. You know, you're not in a closed box like a car or a train or an airplane. You're outside and you're in connection with everything around you. You smell the environment, you feel the environment, you get in touch with people, with plants, with animals, with practically everything around you. You see the landscape change. You see the cities or the villages becoming cities. It's amazing. You take in more of the country, I think, because you also obviously go through the places we wouldn't if we would take other means of transport. In Africa, a lot of people are amazed and attracted to what we do, and they're very interested and very happy that we come here by bicycle. So we've only, well, 99.8% only encountered interested and very generous, friendly, warm, welcoming people. And I think that's also a big advantage of traveling by bicycle. Yeah, the reactions from the people are just astonishing. It's those small gestures or like a thumbs up that gives you the energy to just... People waving, people shouting, people clapping their hands, people honking their cars, people handing you over some water or asking, are you okay, guys? Do you need something? Where do you sleep tonight? If you want, you can sleep in my garden. Or, you know, people just want to help you. They want to show appreciation for what you're doing. So it's a very, it really, like Jelle said, it gives us so much energy just to be in touch with everyone around us.
You've been in Namibia roughly about 2 weeks now. You've come at a time when the rain started. I don't know if you've noticed, but we get very excited about rain. How's your experience of Namibia? What's your experience been so far in Namibia?
For us, it's been incredible to be a part of this because when we entered the country, a lot of people told us like it hasn't rained here for 4 years, for 7 years, for 8 years, depending on the place where we were. And then I think the last week we saw the clouds build up every day, which is also incredibly beautiful. And yeah, at night it just starts pouring rain, and you can see that the landscape is just so ready to receive this rain. And we've had some amazing sunsets. We've had a rainbow across our camping spot, which is
I mean,
like the sunset on one side and a rainbow behind our tents. That was just an incredible sight.
And then I think 2 or 3 days ago, we've had a massive storm. We were really in the center of the storm. And luckily, we were at the camping where there was a little building, but we had to hide in the corner to not try to get completely wet because it was open from one side. And it was just the whole desert turned into a big lake. Like that, the next day the water is gone and you see some small plants growing. And I mean, the nature is really reviving. And yeah, it's a very special moment to be here.
It's just an amazing experience, and it's unique to be here at this time. So we can only be thankful to be able to witness this. I mean, I'm colorblind, but the colors I've seen in the last couple of days riding through the Namib Desert is it's just amazing. I can't put in words how beautiful the landscapes get. You see the dark clouds, and then some sun still comes through, making the desert glow almost in like a vibrant color. It's amazing.
Where to next? And in what way can all of us who are following you on this journey, how can people help you?
Well, first of all, our route will bring us to Sossusvlei, of course. From Sossus, we will take the C27 towards Helmeringhausen. And from there on, we will cycle down towards the Fish River Canyon, and then finally to the border to South Africa, the Noordhoever border. I think in Namibia, we'll still have 2-3 weeks because it's such an amazing experience to be here. I don't know, people can help us by dropping a message, by contacting us, by maybe offering a place where we can put our tent.
Yeah, it's the small things that matter. Maybe visit the website. We also have an online shop where the donations go to an NGO in Uganda.
Africa Good Morning prides itself on being your reliable source for decentralized African news. Keeping that in mind, we're going to cross over to Zambia and have a chat with Mr. Mike Sichula, whose first story is about more than average rainfall expected in 6 out of 10 of the provinces in Zambia. Mike, could you please take the story and give us the rest of your package?
Africa, good morning. Yes, indeed, like you have rightly said, according to the Zambia Meteorological Department, they issued a weather forecast this week saying that 6 of the 10 provinces of Zambia are going to receive more than average rainfall in the next few days. As I speak to Africa this morning, it has been raining since last evening, since yesterday. And this is a situation that has caused flooding, as you can see from the pictures there, in the southern part of Zambia, in Namara district, which has been hit heavily by flash floods. The government has had to use helicopters to evacuate people who are almost like losing their properties and everything due to floods that become so dangerous to their lives. So the government has moved in to ensure that these people are relocated to higher ground. And this situation has also affected the agricultural sector because most of these people who are moved had actually planted their maize and other crops. But because of the floods, they have to be moved, meaning their livelihoods has been affected because most of people in these areas depend on agriculture, livestock, and these other agricultural practices. The sad part is that when these floods happened, about at least 2 people died from these floods. Then moving on to my second story is that Zambia has maintained its 30 score against corruption out of 180 selected countries across the world. Our viewers may wish to know that the CPI score is based on a score of 0 to 100, where 0 means most corrupt, while 100 means least corrupt. So Zambia on that score has maintained 30 scores. So meaning in terms of fighting corruption, Zambia still has a long way to go. At least if Zambia had scored 50 or above 50 scores, but we are below 50. So according to Transparency International Zambia, that released the report yesterday, they are saying the new administration has more or less like a benchmark to start from 30 score to see if they can improve it to a better position in terms of fighting corruption in the country. Then one of the things that I did mention the other week on this show is that in order to fight corruption, the government of Zambia has set up a court specifically to look at criminal cases that involve financial and economic crimes. So maybe that court is one of those areas that this administration is going to use in the fight against corruption. And people are saying maybe this could be a way to end corruption in the country. Then as I move to my third story, my third story is that under the new mode of funding education, the government of Zambia has allocated for more than 47 million kwacha, more than $47 million to support over 165 learners across the country. So you may wish to know that under the new administration, the provision of education is almost free. Free in the sense that learners are no longer made to pay school fees. They are no longer made to pay parents, teachers, association fees, as well as examination fees. This is starting from grade 1, from preschool actually, to secondary, to grade 12, secondary level. So all these fees that were there before have been moved to ensure that learners are given a privilege to get an education. So under the new system, the government has set aside that much, 47 million kwacha, $47 million to sponsor more than 165,000 beneficiaries across all the 10 provinces of Zambia in 156 constituencies. Then in my last story, various artists that received empowerment packages during the previous administration have been told to pay back the loans, failure to which they will be prosecuted by authorities. So the background to this story is that before the August 12, 2021 general elections, the government of Zambia had empowered musicians, had empowered comedians, had empowered various artists with empowerment. But the problem which has arisen is that most of these artists were empowered were actually aligned to the party that was in power, the Patriotic Front administration. It was happening at a time when Zambia was hit hard by the coronavirus pandemic. So they did say that the artists needed some empowerment. But however, there was an argument from other stakeholders of the country who are saying who is more vulnerable between an artist and a marketeer or somebody who is involved in business. So this argument was there, and but people still went ahead. The previous administration still went ahead to give these empowerment funds to these artists. And now the new administration has said we will recover empowerment packages from artists. And some of the artists that have been interviewed have said they have no problem to pay back, but they'll just need to be given time in order to pay back these loans. So these are some of the stories that I had from Zambia, and I hope our viewers have been able to get to know what is going on in Zambia, the real Africa.
The real Africa indeed. Thank you very much, Mike, for disseminating that important information for us.
Africa, good morning. Thank you very much.
Always good to have you here. This is, of course, still Africa Good Morning, and what we're all hoping for is a good day outside. So let's check out the weather forecast up next.
Welcome back to Africa. Good morning. Now, Australian geoscience data company Searchers has apparently started with a seismic survey for South Africa's west coast despite pending legal challenges. Ari Hougad has this story and more. Good morning, Ari. The stage is yours. Please take it away.
Yes, very good morning. Yes, it seems to be a challenge in South Africa. We had, viewers will remember, Shell had similar challenges, or there were similar challenges with Shell in December off the east coast of South Africa. Now it's the west coast, and it's an Australian company. There's a pending court case again of 14 groups against the seismic survey that started on Sunday, despite that there's a pending court case. So just quickly, there was authority given to the Australian company called Searcher to do the seismic surveys. It was given to them in May last year. Also, respondents include the Minister of Energy and Minerals, Mr. Gwedi Mantashe. It is the claims are that there's not a proper environmental impact study that was done, as the case last year with Shell. So obviously, there's very concerned people. The seismic searching is apparently there's a challenge, obviously, to the ecosystem. So that needs to be done. So it's a pending court case. It's an urgent interdict, and that will be heard the 7th of February. But for now, there is a concern that Searcher is continuing, already started. They're about 120 kilometers off the Cape Town coast, Saldanha coast, starting the seismic testing. So that is a developing story as well.
Is doing in Namibia. Let's move over to your next story. The Special Investigation Unit of the South African government has been tasked to investigate many years of dealings by Telkom in Nigeria, where Telkom and the state have suffered big financial losses since 2006. Please tell us more.
Yes, so Telkom is a big role player in South Africa, a telecommunications company, but it goes back to 2006. So President Cyril Ramaphosa, he started the process to say that the Special Investigation Unit must investigate. It goes back to a specific deal also that was made when Telkom bought a multi-links company in Nigeria for $500 million US. That was way back in 2007. In today's money, that is about $7 billion worth. So it was just 2 years later, it was sold for just $10 million US. So from 500 million to 10 million sold. So there's lots of concern. It was described as years of failed deals, and that's why the loss making needs to be investigated by this unit. So Telkom is 40% owned by the government, by the largest shareholder is the government, 40%. And then also the public investment corporations, they manage pension funds in South Africa. They hold 14% in Telkom. So it's important that this needs to be looked into, and maybe some money can get back into the system again, hopefully.
All right, we understand that the South African wine grape crop has become smaller, or is expected to be smaller this year. Please tell us why, and also please talk about the impact it will have on wine producers.
Yes, indeed, and I can see on the screen there's a bit of a frown on Ashwin's face when you read that. It's concerning, but the reasons are mainly because of the heat wave. There were a few heat waves the last few days. That's one of the components. Also, there's a higher disease presence this season, and there's also a bit of a decrease in vineyards in some regions. But the Vinpro, they expect a smaller crop for 2022 at the moment compared to 2021. Not a big difference, but there is going to be a difference. The challenge that the wine industry had was oversupply also last year because of COVID, of about 200 to 300 million liters of wine at one stage last year that was meant for export. So we'll see how that develops. It's it's about a month away when the crops are taking off. But South Africa produced about 890 million liters of wine annually. So that's a lot of wine, and about 320 to 350 million of that is expected for export. So that's the lovely view from Stellenbosch Mountains. Their crops seem to be fine. So we'll see how that develops. But there seems to be a bit of a shortage for wine grape for 2022.
Well, the grapes and vineyards in Cape Town will certainly be in my prayers. All right, let's move on to the next story, which doesn't leave such a satisfying taste in the mouth. In sport news, the coach of the national cricket team, Mark Boucher, and his legal representatives will be present in a disciplinary hearing today, where Cricket South Africa seeks Boucher's dismissal. Tell us about this.
Yes, so that will be heard today internally first to the chairman, Mr. Mark Boucher. The coach and his legal team will meet. Today's proceeding is more to have set up timetables and proceedings. They will start with some testimony. That's the current coach, Mark Boucher. He faces, as described by the documents, gross misconduct charges, and SA Cricket seeks his dismissal. And the three reasons, the three charges relate to in terms of when he was 20 years ago, when he was a player, he was involved in a team song, and that is a racial team song related to Paul Adams. So that is one of the charges. Also, his relationship with the former assistant coach, Enoch Nokwe, that he didn't develop him, and there was also challenges in the relationship, no development plan. And then lastly, also his handling of the Black Lives Matter cases, processes at the World Cup, etc., quite recently. So that is a challenge. It's South Africa, the Proteas, besides all of this, did well, and they beat India in the Test series and 3-0 in the one-day series. So the results was quite good. But these are concerns that needs to be addressed. And the CEO of South African Cricket, Graham Smith, seems to be in the same situation as well, that charges might be against him as well. So also developing story, but they meet today.
All right, now in our feel-good story, the Cape Epic is back again in Cape Town with new sponsors at this time around. Please tell us about this.
Yes, so Ciovita is one of the new sponsors. They're a technical apparel partner, but that's a grueling race. It's known as it's the best known mountain bike, cycle, cross-country mountain bike trail in the world. So the 20th year this year. So the good news is it will happen again 20 to 27 March in Cape Town region in the mountains. It's very tough, very challenging. A total of 657 kilometers over 6 days. Most of the days is about 100 kilometers, 118 the longest one. But every day they climb about 2,500 meters. So over the whole 5-6 days, a total 657 kilometers with a total climb of 17 kilometers of climb in the mountains. It's between Stellenbosch and also Greyton. It's a lovely area, but very challenging for these riders. That will start the 20th of March this year. So nice to see that happening. And people hopefully practicing and training hard for the Ciovita Epic Series that will start in March in Cape Town. So that's South African news. I hope everybody's got a great day and a great week. And we talk again next week, Wednesday, with more South African news. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much, Ari, for bringing us the news from South Africa. Now, in Namibia, Shell has just found some oil and gas in a Namibian offshore well. We'll be talking about that in your economic news stories after the break. Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. It's time for your economic news stories. In our first story, Shell hits oil and gas in Namibian offshore well. Shell has made a significant oil and gas discovery at a closely watched offshore well in Namibia, which could spark a wave of investment in the southern African country. Three industry sources told Reuters. Namibia is not a fossil fuel producer, and it is unclear if the discoveries are big enough for Shell to go ahead with the development of the country's first deep water field, the sources said. The Namibian government is planning to make an announcement next week on the details of the discovery at the Graph 1 well, which Shell started drilling last month, according to sources. Shell holds a 45% stake in the offshore petroleum exploration license 39. Now, the discovery comes as Shell begins winding down its oil production as part of a plan to shift to renewable energy and low carbon fuels.
1.1 billion injection fails to heal the economy. Malawi has never experienced a war since attaining independence in 1964. Despite enjoying peace and tranquility over the years, its per capita gross domestic product is the third lowest sub-Saharan African, according to the International Monetary Fund. Over the past decade, Malawi has been supported by the international community, including IMF, but the economy has remained fragile, with the exit point from fragility not in sight. Between 2005 and 2020, the international community continued to support Malawi through budget and off-budget support and project financing, with a total official development assistance estimated to average 1.1 billion US dollar, equivalent to 1 trillion kwacha, or 12% of GDP.
All right, Nigerian government bows to Labour shelves plan to end fuel subsidy from July. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed has announced the resolve of the federal government to chuck its earlier plan to remove subsidy on petroleum products from July. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources Chief Timepre Silva has also stated that subsidy paid on the pump price of petrol would remain for now. Silva revealed that President Muhammadu Buhari was against fuel subsidy removal. The finance minister said the federal government initially planned to remove subsidy on petroleum products from July. She said that was the reason adequate provision was made in the 2022 national budget for subsidy payment till June.
Kenya lifts ban on UAE. Travelers from the United Arab Emirates will be allowed to enter Kenya after the East African country lifted a ban on the all incoming flights. The Director General of Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, Gilbert Kibe, said the ban was lifted on Monday night. Kenya suspended all passenger flights from the UAE on the 10th of January. It was reciprocating the UAE's ban on all passenger flights from Kenya over allegations that some travelers had tested positive for COVID-19 on arrival in Dubai, yet had certificates that did not have the virus. However, the ban did not affect the cargo flights. The UAE is yet to lift its ban on Kenyan flights.
All right, that brings us to the end of our economic news stories. Up next, economic indicators. Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. It's time for your sports news stories, and we start off with some AFCON results. Senegal got the best of Cape Verde in a 2-0 win, and Morocco got the better of Malawi in a 2-1 win. All right, now in our next story, it's quite sad, and it is also from AFCON. 8 dead, 50 injured in Africa Cup of Nations Cameroon stadium crash. 8 people were killed and about 50 injured in a crash outside a Cameroonian football stadium on Monday ahead of an Africa Cup of Nations match. Crowds attempted to enter through a southern entrance at Olembe Stadium in the capital Yaoundé to watch the host nation play Comoros. Although the stadium's capacity of 60,000 has been limited over coronavirus fears, the 60% cap is raised to 80% when Cameroon's indomitable Lions play. 8 deaths were recorded, 2 women in their 30s, 4 men in their 30s, 1 child, 1 body taken away by the family, according to a preliminary health ministry report obtained by AFP.
In our next story, Namibia's Gebhard Erasmus, nominated for SPN Crick Info Awards. Namibia's cricket captain Gebhard Erasmus has been announced as one of the 5 nominees for SPN Crick Info's 2021 Captain of the Year Award. Under Erasmus' leadership, Namibia won 9 of 14 T20 international they played last year, the highlight being qualification into the Super 12s in their first World Cup appearance. Namibia suffered a drubbing at the hands of Sri Lanka in the opener, but they stormed back with successive wins against the Netherlands, Ireland and Scotland. Erasmus broke his finger during the warm-up matches, but he soldiered on. With Namibian assistant coach Albie Morkel revealing he headed straight to the operation theatre after the T20 World Cup.
You should get the award. The man continued the cricket match with a broken finger. I wouldn't even continue this
Imagine.
show. All right, the last of our stories is a rugby story. Of course, we're talking about my favorite rugby team, the Stormers, who are searching for a consistent winning run as trip to Shark Tank looms. After last weekend's last gasp victory over the Bulls in Pretoria, the next thing on the agenda for the Stormers is to establish a consistent winning run in the United Rugby Championship. Saturday's meeting with the Sharks in Durban may be a perfect opportunity to get that run going. Assistant coach Norman Laker says the team owes it to themselves to back up their fine performance. And to add to high spirits following the win, Laker told reporters there were no new injury concerns ahead of the trip to the Shark Tank this weekend. All right, that brings us to the end of our sports news stories. Up next, headlines after the break. Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning from 7 a.m. as we have been bringing you news happening on the African continent and beyond. Now let's have a look at the headlines from our top stories. Malawi president dissolves cabinet. Burkina Faso president resigns after military coup. Lily mine victims' families mark 1,000 days camping outside mine. Mali asks Denmark to immediately withdraw troops deployed there. Shell hits oil and gas in Namibian offshore well. And in your AFCON results, Senegal beat Cape Verde 2-0 and Morocco beat Malawi 2-1. Those have been our stories.
Thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Africa Good Morning. Please visit our website. It's called One Up To, and on there you can catch the repeat of Africa Good Morning from 8:30 to 9:30. We do welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can email them to us. Our email is agm_2cents@nmh.com.na. Alternatively, we are on Facebook and Twitter. That's at Africa Good Morning. On that note, please get vaccinated, wear your mask, and avoid unnecessary public gatherings. Remember to play your part in the fight against COVID-19. From me, Aina Raiza Kwels, all my love, all my light.
Swera Shakanaka.